and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that likes to bob and weave, baby, bob and weave. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge Season 40 Battle of the Eras Episode 5. We are finally back after a week off thanks to the VMAs, and we come back to a drama-filled episode. But before we can get to any of the drama, let's start off where last episode left off, and that was Jenny winning against Anissa, Derek being declared the winner over Horacio, and coming back to the challenge house, we have 8 new targets. We got Tina, CT, Nehemiah, Emily, the Daves, Olivia, and Kylan. CT acknowledges in the confessionals that Era 1 is not doing too well in the daily challenges, but they are crushing the eliminations, and he just felt like it was his time to step up. On the other side, we have Nehemiah, who is nervous that CT is one of the targets because he's getting flashbacks to season 21 Rivals, where he was eliminated by CT in his last season on the flagship show. So all Nehemiah is thinking in this episode is that his era has got to win. Then we jump over to Era 4, who is having a team meeting, and Olivia calls out Josh being like, yo man, why didn't you step up? You said you were going to. And Josh is like, yeah, well, CT wanted to go in and then I was nervous. Somebody told me not to do it, and then that's what happened. I just didn't do it. It's like, cool, that's just a big excuse. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm glad we wasted time hearing Josh is afraid to go in against CT. Half the house is afraid to go against CT. You say you're gonna step up, just step up. Speaking of CT, let's go to the next day where they're having a barbecue. And I'll be for real, I thought the scene was pretty nice. I mean, you get Grill Master CT prepping the steaks, you got people throwing the football. Cara and Laurel are playing pickleball with each other. You have people dancing, having a good time. I just really enjoyed this moment. Now, talking about a good time, we get to the nighttime portion, and the cameraman sneaks a peek at Michele and Devin doing a little tonsil hockey, and that leads to a full-blown scrimmage upstairs. The only thing that really made my skin crawl is that Michele called her and Devin the Vacation Alliance. Let's not make this a thing. I don't want to hear about the Vacation Alliance or the Vacation Alliance. That wasn't the only time we were going to hear about the Vacation Alliance this episode, because then we have the Vacation Alliance bringing up the Vacation Alliance and talking about it. And can I just say, when this moment happened and Josh mentioned the Vacation Alliance and we got all these confessionals, I instantly tuned out. I get that they know it's a thing and now they embrace it. I don't care. Some of you won one challenge and now pulled your money together to get on a boat, rent a boat, and then take some pictures on it. I don't care. This is wasted space in this episode for me. But speaking of some of the Vacation Alliance, we do hear a conversation between Nehemiah and Devin. Nehemiah wants to make some deals. He knows that Era 2 and Era 3 are some of the 2 strongest teams in this game. So he is trying to butter up Devin, trying to make a deal that if one of them wins, they will keep each other safe. Devin says that he likes the idea of it, but he has to run it by Tori, which I thought was really interesting. Normally in reality TV, when deals are just proposed, people just say yes and then go back on them. But Devin's like, no, let's just wait and hear some things out, you know? Knowing Devin, he has a lot of his hands in a lot of different cookie jars, so this is the more mature / less snaky way of going about making deals. So I actually can commend Devin for holding back instead of just promising Nehemiah, yes, we'll do it. But that's when everybody dons their challenge gear, heads down to meet up with TJ for this week's daily challenge in the woods called Fast Pass. Each team is going to have to carry and maneuver these giant Y-beams through the woods to get to their station to collect sandbags. They have 8 sandbags in total, but they can only carry 4 at a time, so they have to make 2 trips. Once you collect all 8 of your sandbags, then you use those sandbags to balance out your scale. The first team to complete the task will win. The last place will lose. Hearing what this game entails, I thought that Era 4 actually had a pretty decent chance at this, because to me, for some reason, Survivor popped into my head, and Michele is on the Era 4 team. I think the scale thing is on Survivor. I don't know why, I just felt like Era 4 had a decent chance, where coming into this, I already thought that Era 1 was going to have an uphill battle. They have less people than everybody else, because unlike Survivor, the challenge just lets everybody compete instead of having people sit out. So them having less people on top of some of the people on their team are hurt, like Darrell's back when he was going up against Tony, and CT had a pretty tough fall. last episode in episode 4. You don't know if he's at 100%. And not only that, but then when the horn blows, their strategy of trying to stand up the Y beam is just a completely wrong strategy. They thought that they could walk through the woods with it standing up like that. The physics don't make sense. They barely get into the woods, they barely get into this challenge before they're just yelling at each other and trying to bring up too many ideas and not enough movement, not enough doing. Era 3 is also having a tough time. They have too many cooks in the kitchen. So it comes down to Era 4 and Era 2. Era 4 is working like a well-oiled machine, and Era 2 is working well with each other until they are close towards the end and some people start trying to sabotage their own team. AKA Laurel decides that she is just going to drop the beam and sandbag Emily. Laurel is trying to play chess, trying to be so many moves into the future, and is like, look, Emily's a strong competitor. I don't want her in the final, so if we can get her sent into elimination and knocked out of this game, it would be so much better for me. The results of this daily challenge is Era 4 wins, Era 1 loses. And on top of that, Tina, who is frustrated and going directly into the elimination, feels like she wasn't heard at all during that competition, so she starts yelling at people. CT steps up, starts yelling back at Tina. Their games are on the line. They have the most frustration of losing this competition, but they do come together at the end and say that they are sorry. Now, coming back to the challenge house, I'm gonna get through all of the filler and the chamber so that way we can talk mainly about the Cara versus Laurel argument that happens in this episode. So, back at the challenge house, CT and Tina don't care who gets chosen. They're gonna keep quiet in the chamber and let Era 4 have to make a decision without their involvement. Now, in the chamber is when things get messy between Nehemiah and Devin specifically. Nehemiah talks first and essentially tells Kyland and Olivia that it is in their best interest to target Tori and Devin because they are the heads of the Vacation Alliance. It's the biggest alliance in the house, so you would be doing a mistake by not targeting them now. Devin then throws Nehemiah under the bus because of the deal that he tried to make earlier on in this episode. We talked about it very briefly. We get to a point in the argument where Nehemiah goes, and at that point, if you're doing that, I feel like you lost the argument. So I felt like that wasn't a good way to end the argument. And then once everybody left, it just seemed like no matter what, it was going to be Era 1 versus Era 2. Then we get some moments with Jonna where she's talking to the confessional and also to CT and other people, trying to be like, I don't want to volunteer myself to go in. I don't want to go in there. And all I could think in my head is, I know Jonna is most likely going to be picked as a target, which she does. And these scenes just make it seem like it's not going to end well for Jonna in the next episode. A little bit of red flags, a little bit of foreshadowing in my opinion. Now we can finally get into Laurel versus Cara. And really this all begins, at least according to the ed, this all begins when Laurel comes into the room, is throwing notes to her friends. She throws one to Tori and then she throws one in Michelle's lap and then instantly takes it back and says, I thought you were Avery. The edit with these events is a little funky and wonky, but we go from that moment to Michelle confronting Laurel and trying to figure out if there's a way that they can become friends. We get nowhere with this conversation until the very end when they agree that they're not going to force a friendship, they're not going to be friends. Nothing positive is going to come out of them trying to be friends, but they will agree to be cordial with each other. Now, during their conversation, Cara Maria comes in towards the back end of it. And the way that she is hearing Laurel talk to Michelle and the conversation that's going on, it triggers something in Cara, a memory of how conversations with Laurel back in the day happened with her. Cara wished somebody was there for her back in the day who may have gone through something like this, maybe with Laurel. So once the conversation was over between Michelle and Laurel, Cara says, I'll be your best friend outside the game here, Michelle, and puts her arm around Michelle as they walk out of the room. In between that moment and the ultimate big argument, we have a conversation with Emily and Cara where they both agree that Laurel threw the competition and she is just being a very big, mean person. So when Cara is dyeing her hair up in the kitchen, loft, pantry area, whatever that is, Laurel comes in to make a sandwich. There's attitudes, and then Cara just lets it be known how she feels Laurel is in this house. Cara says that Laurel is going after Darrell, Emily, Michele, and herself, Cara, and that maybe it is not their fault, but maybe it's your fault, Laurel. Maybe it's you that is the problem. This is where the whole argument avalanches and is taken to a level I've not really seen. Like, we've seen Laurel be angry and yell in people's faces on the challenge, but there is a point in this argument where Laurel's tone goes to a level I've never really heard on the challenge before. It is one of those like voices, it's one of those tones that is just like sends shivers up your spine the way she uses that voice. But it gets to a point where Laurel says that she had Cara's back. And then we get some flashbacks to Rivals when she stood up for Cara after Wes dumped 2 liters of cola on Cara and her white outfit. It is true that Laurel was there for Cara at some points. She was there in Rivals, which happened back in 2011. She was there for Cara when things went south with Abram in 2016 in season 27, Battle of the Bloodlines. I went through their entire history, their very complex history with one another in the Cara Maria documentary I made some time ago. It's very complex, and they were friends for certain seasons. There is a statute of limitations. There is a time limit that you can say, I was there for you, back 13 years ago, 8 years ago? How does that absolve the last 8 years of just like pain and torment? You cannot say, I was there for you back in 2011 when all this time leading up to this very moment has just been a freaking roller coaster that is super duper toxic. Did Cara start this whole thing? Yes. She was the one that unleashed on Laurel while she was trying to make a sandwich. But I felt with how everything was going in this season that it was inevitable. When you have stuff just building on top of each other, at a certain point, it's going to hit a level of no return. If she's going to be throwing competitions, if she's going to be calling people out in bragging ways and kind of make offhanded comments about getting massages while you're married and think that that's not going to have repercussions or that somebody's not going to call you out on it, you're just dead wrong. You're wrong. And I'm glad that Cara decided to stand up. I think that we didn't see half or even 2/3 of what the actual argument was because, again, this edit was super weird. It was super wonky. The challenge is trying to give us bits and pieces, but if what the T accounts had said during the offseason is true, then things got to a level that was really, really bad, really, really personal. The rumor is that Cara had to go to a hotel for a couple of days to have to recover from what was said in this argument. I will say that it was nice to see a good portion of the house, like Rachel, Ryan, Emily, Michele, have Cara's back and be there for her. Whereas on the other side, we have Laurel talking with Theo and Kylan, and at some point, Kylan just walks away, and Theo's the only one left hearing Laurel out. Both had a hand in this, both have to take some blame for this, but I actually feel like it is a learning moment for Cara to actually stand up to Laurel in this moment. And something tells me that this isn't the last time something like this will happen in this game. But now that that's all done, everybody dons their challenge gear, head down to meet up with TJ for this week's elimination between Era 1, Tina and CT versus Era 2, Emily and Nehemiah, in this week's elimination called Getting Hammered. This elimination should have been sponsored by Home Depot. Players will have to take a hammer, pull out 100 nails, and then hammer in 100 nails and be the first person in your round to hit the button. Let's be for real, Tina's nails were not hammered in as much as the other threes. She goes up there and just rubs her hammer on the board and the nails just fall out really quickly. Emily tries that and all the nails bend. CT and Nehemiah try that in their round and the nails bend. So Tina's nails were not hammered in as much as the other ones, which gives her a really big advantage and a very big head start on taking out the rest of her nails and hammering in the other 100. That's just how the elimination goes. Tina wins and Emily is eliminated. We move on to the men's heat and they try Tina's tactics, but alas, their nails do not fall out, they just bend, so they have to actually use the hammer to pull the nails out. We are neck and neck going into the hammering in portion. It's really, really close, but Nehemiah is able to edge out CT. This is one of those elimination games that could have went either way. It's not really a puzzle. It's not really physical either. Like, I'm sure they exerted a lot of energy, and CT said it was more grueling than you can imagine, which I totally understand. 100 nails in and out is tough. But at the same time, this is not an elimination that I'm like writing home about. This elimination is just hammer, nails, and boards. I'm sorry, but it's kind of a snooze fest. But it was just the game for Tina and Nehemiah to pull one over and get a win, sending home two very strong contenders of CT and Emily out of the game early on. I mean, we're only 5 episodes in and CT is eliminated? The last time he was eliminated this early was Total Madness. It's very shocking just knowing that we have still so much more of this season to go and CT is already gone. And you know, I guess Emily's gone too. Nehemiah and Tina are tasked to give out targets. You have Brad and Rachel having to be targets for Era 1. You have Bananas and Laurel being chosen for Era 2. Era 3, Corey steps up and Jonna is silent. And even in the episode, she goes, I don't want to say my name. I'm not going to volunteer. And Nehemiah calls her out anyways. For Era 4, Josh finally steps up and Jenny is chosen. And Jenny is very, very angry. Now, the last couple of episodes, we have not heard anything about drama points, but for this episode, we do see a little bit of CT and Emily giving out their drama points. CT gives Bananas 3, Jonna 2, Jordan 2, and Cara Maria 5, whereas Emily gives Brad a 5, Laurel 1, and Cara Maria 3. Like I said, this was a very drama-filled episode, mainly between Cara Maria and Laurel. I just wish we would have got a bit more cohesiveness, a little bit more of the edit making more sense during that argument, because there was points where I was just like, okay, they're really trying to put this with kitty gloves. I know things were said that they don't want to make it to air, but I just wish we would have seen a little bit more to where it was like we got more of a vibe of what this argument was like, because it just seemed like it was way stronger. There was so much more that was left on the cutting room floor. But what'd you think about that argument? Let me know down in the comment section below. Whose side are you on, Cara Maria or Laurel's? Let me know that down in the comment section below. What'd you think about Laurel sabotaging her own team, making Emily vulnerable to be chosen to go into the elimination? What'd you think about the daily challenge? What'd you think about the elimination? What do you think about Tina winning against Emily and Nehemiah winning against CT? Let me know anything and everything you felt about this episode down in the comment section below. I want to hear what you have to say. It feels so good. After a week off, it feels so good to have an episode to talk about. And this episode in particular, there was a lot to dissect. Luckily, we don't have to wait 2 weeks to get the next episode, so we'll be back next week with episode 6. I cannot wait. But now I want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really, really soon with more Challenge 40 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.